Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I wanted to talk about a couple of things here, and mainly it's sort of the direction of the Walking Dead universe, but it's more centered on the CRM specifically because it is something that there's like, first of all, people got really excited about an article because they referenced the Rick and Michonne show getting like multiple seasons. And there's also this other idea here from another article that I want to talk about here a little bit. And well, there's an approach to it that I want to talk about because it just makes more sense. It's so logical. And it's why I really believe that doing one season of the Rick and Michonne show just makes no sense whatsoever. So before we go any further, obviously, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. And if you haven't watched the podcast yet, I do actually have a podcast out. It is called the Empty Minds Podcast. And episode 4 is now out. Episode 5 should be out any day now. And then episode 6 will be out this Monday. And then we're going to be on schedule with each episode coming out every single Monday. As I mentioned before, the episode schedule was kind of messed up because we recorded like 5 in advance or something like that, 4 or 5 in advance. And then we were like, do we really want to be releasing episodes like 4 or 5 weeks in advance, right? Because and the reason why I came up is because of Comic-Con. Comic-Con was at the end of July there, July 21st or something. And the episode, I don't think the podcast even came out yet. Yet we were releasing the first episode, I think July 24th or something like that. So we were like, we just recorded something for Comic-Con. But that episode, I think it's episode 5, and it still hasn't even come out yet. So that's why we're like, you know what, we need to release all these episodes right away. And the way we're going to do it now is basically we're going to record episode 7 this Saturday. And it's not going to drop the Monday after, like 2 days later. It's going to drop the Monday after that. So we'll be 9 days behind in terms of doing that. But that's only because of editing and all of that. Like there's a lot of work that goes into that podcast. So it's like we need to kind of be a little bit. Yeah, but that's just that for now. I'm sure things will eventually get easier. But if you're interested in the podcast, definitely make sure to subscribe. We're here on YouTube. And there's also, we are available on Spotify as well as Apple Music. And I guess wherever you get your podcasts. So let's talk about the Walking Dead here. So there is this article here from thecosmiccircus.com, and it talks about the Walking Dead universe, sort of, you know, just what's next in general for the Walking Dead universe. And I really feel like the article here, I mean, obviously it is written by Drew Reed, and I'm not entirely sure, you know, how Drew is familiar with the Walking Dead universe and the state of everything, if a lot of it is coming from like just watching, you know, for the first time in a very long time and catching up with everything and just sort of guessing, you know, the state of everything. It doesn't really matter anyways. Like, I really like the perspective that I've read on here because it's sort of what I think makes the most sense here. And it's really funny because I've said a lot of this constantly, but it seems like a lot of people don't believe in this right now. And it's really, really reminding me of what was happening before with the Rick movie trilogy, because I kept saying, well, no, they're not going to be like abandoning the Rick movie trilogy. Like they're still going to be doing that. Obviously, right now they're focusing on the first movie. They're not going to just end Rick Grimes' story. And many people were saying Andrew Lincoln pulled out of it. He doesn't want to have anything to do with it. This and that. Like they're not going to be doing it. It's not going anywhere. There was something off about it for sure. There definitely was like this feeling of like, I don't know why it's so quiet. Like what's happening with it. And then we found out it's because it was turning into a TV show kind of thing. And so that's what eventually did happen here. And it turned into what we have here, right? And with this show here, it's the same exact type of thing. Yes, they did say limited series, but you got to remember, like Loki was a limited series that got renewed for a season 2, right? Limited series just mean that it's not going to be out every single year like a regular scheduled, you know, TV show kind of thing. It's going to be more like these periodic things, right? Where maybe season 2 for the show comes out in 2026. Maybe it comes out every 2 or 3 years kind of thing, right? Like it's basically that type of thing here. And I think that's the approach they're doing with this, because there's been a lot of talk about that. Like there's been no outright like, no, it's only going to be one season. It is just 6 episodes. They've never said that. They just said like it's a mini series, limited series. There's 6 episodes coming out in 2023, although now it's 2024. So there's no like, no, we're not doing it. They're just saying what it is. Like, yes, there's going to be 6 episodes coming out in this year. And that's basically it. You know what I mean? Because I do think they want to see how everything goes. And I really feel like a lot of this goes back to how they handled Rick Grimes' departure. Like I've always just had that feeling that the way they handled the departure back then kind of upset Andrew Lincoln, because he just wanted it to be completely quiet, right? Like he knew that he was going to be doing the movies. He knew that Rick was going to be leaving the show, and he just wanted all of it to be quiet. I know the movies, that whole thing was quiet, but what he wanted was for people to just like watch the show, and then all of a sudden Rick is gone and people are like, wait, what? And then they find out about the movies. Like he wanted it to be an actual surprise, but they announced it a few months beforehand. And he said at Comic-Con that year how upset he was with that. He was like, I wish that it was like this. Robert Kirkman, I think, was the one who said it or something. And it was something like that, right? And I think he wanted it to play out a very specific way. And I feel like with this show, it could be the same exact thing. Like, I feel like they're not going to say a single thing until they actually, until we watch the show, we watch the last episode and we're wondering, is this it for Rick and Michonne? And then we watch that final episode and then they're like, yeah, we're coming back for season 2. And then people are freaking out, right? Like, it really feels like with this show and with the announcement of this show in general, there's always that element of surprise there. And they're really making us like wait until the last possible second to find out anything. Because even with the Rick and Michonne show announcement last year at Comic-Con in 2022, I was like, honestly, like we were all expecting Andrew Lincoln to be there. We had no news that Denai Guerrero was going to be there. We thought it was just going to be Andrew Lincoln that was there. And then all of a sudden, it's literally like, I think a minute or two after the whole entire thing is over. Like, it really seems like everything is closed down. And that was it. The show's over. Like, I think they went overtime and it was like, okay, I guess there really is going to be nothing. And then you have Andrew Lincoln. And not only that, you have Denai Guerrero show up and then they're both there to announce that they're both going to be back in this new show kind of thing. And then people just like freaked out, right? So to me, that's just how I view this show. And it lines up with, I know there was an article written recently where they talked about the fact that, well, their sources anyway said that there might be a second season or there might not be. So to me, it's one of those things where they're very open to it, but they just don't really know. And it's just sort of up in the air. That's why we're not getting any answers right now as to whether or not there will for sure be one or not, right? So I think they want to see how things are going to play out here. And it's just one of those things where we just kind of have to wait, right? And this is where we get into the article here from the Cosmic Circus. And the article references The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, and discusses that the show is going to focus entirely on, the reunion of Rick and Michonne, while obviously setting up this big, larger world and these big issues here with the CRM and the entirety of the Walking Dead universe. I'm paraphrasing part of the article here, but that's what the article references. And then there's also this last part here where it says, it can be assumed the first season will likely be partially about Rick's time in the CRM during the many years he's been gone. The article later on then actually says here that it's clear for now these 3 spinoffs may continue on for numerous seasons, depending on how well they perform with ratings. And the article really does just like go into the overall state of the Walking Dead universe. And I'll leave a link down below to the article. Definitely go and check it out here. I just wanted to reference those 2 things here. But it's really interesting because this is something that I feel like just makes the most sense in general. Like, this is where you should be going. If this isn't where you're going, I feel like that's overall a really big mistake for the Walking Dead universe. Like, if it's the state of, like, that's the thing, worst case scenario, and that's the thing, that's what people are sort of thinking that everything is right now, but people are saying that, like, the Rick and Michonne show is going to be 1 season, it's likely going to be out early 2024, and those 6 episodes will end their stories. After that's over, Rick and Michonne are reunited, and that's basically it. We're not going to see any big reunion at the end between Rick and Michonne and everyone else, like Daryl, Maggie, Negan, Carol, and etc., right? That's basically it. And then these spinoffs here are just going to be focused on their stories separately, and that's basically it. Like, it's going to be very separated, and they're spinoffs. They're branching out into their own thing. There's going to be no reunions. There's going to be no overall story. And to me, that's just not what they're planning. I don't think it makes any sense whatsoever. When you're really looking at it overall, it really seems like the CRM is going to be the next big threat here. And the Rick and Michonne show, I believe, is going to be introducing that as a threat. I really feel like they are the big villains of the Walking Dead universe. And that is sort of what they're introducing right now. Because if you kind of look at it overall, they've never really established it, right? Like, World Beyond established the CRM's power. It established how big of an entity they are and just the power that they have to be able to wipe out communities immediately, right? And then it just kind of ended. Like, it kind of ended with the CRM winning in a sense, right? And again, the goal of that show was to introduce us to this new concept, this new idea here. And then that was basically it, right? It just kind of ended there. And now when you look at the 3 new spinoffs, and especially like the last couple of seasons of The Walking Dead, it kind of just told the comic story while introducing some stuff here and there and then hinting at some stuff with the CRM. Like, I know there's stuff with Lance and Pamela, and they never eventually got around to it where, Lance, I really still believe he was referencing the Civic Republic. It's just the confirmation on the show would have been nice, but if anything, I think it was just kind of an Easter egg, and now we'll look back as soon as we do get that confirmation and be like, yeah, it's exactly what they were referencing. But yeah, they never referenced it on the show, but the spinoffs here, I think it's perfect to kind of get into the stuff here a bit, and I think that's exactly where they're going. And that's why I think the first two seasons of Dead City and Daryl Dixon are going to be focused just primarily on that, their own stories, and then they're going to set up everything pretty well, because Dead City, I think, did a pretty good job at that. It really established its own world, and you can kind of see where the characters are now. And so now going into the future for seasons 2 and 3, you can slowly get into some Civic Republic stuff, and same with the Daryl show as well, because I think the Rick and Michonne show is going to first establish this as a thing, and then season 2 for that show will likely come out, I'm sure, 2026, 27, I'm assuming anyways. Like, we have to be getting a season 2, and then we'll see from there, sort of, right, like just where they go. But this is where I want to get into this other article here from Screen Rant, and there's a section here where it says Rick's group must finally learn about the CRM in the Walking Dead spinoffs. And that's my overall point here is I feel like there's going to be a point. Like, right now it's fine. Even if the Rick and Michonne show gets a season 2, even say a season 3, and that season 3 comes out in 2028 or 29, like say it's really spread out like that. Overall, you know, by the time it gets to say 2026, if the Daryl show and Dead City don't get into any CRM stuff, there's going to be some frustration with fans. Like, there's going to be that element there, because we want to slowly see this reunion. We don't want it to be slow. We do want there to be some connections here and there. And if they constantly tease it over just many, many years, it's going to get pretty frustrating, because we've already been waiting for a couple of years, right? So that's why there needs to be some sort of storyline, you know, from the CRM integrated in, you know, for sure Dead City, and not even that, for sure Daryl Dixon, because you're able to do that pretty easily. Daryl Dixon, we saw the post-credit scene in World Beyond. Like, there's an easy connection that you can make. And Dead City, the location in New York City is so close to the Civic Republic, you can have some Civic Republic, you know, storylines there. You can just start off with, like, there's this group that's sort of, maybe there's like a smaller CRM group or something, a squad that was sent out to New York City, and there's like a connection made there where they learn of this place, right? And maybe that happens at the end of season 2 or early in season 3. Like, you're able to do stuff like that, and I think that's exactly what they need to do. They need to learn more about the Civic Republic, and there needs to be this point here in both of the shows, I feel like, where they start to realize Rick is alive, we know where he is. This way you can sort of get to an end game at some point, because right now that's sort of what everyone is wondering about. Like, is there going to be an end game? Is there going to be a TV show or a movie or something at the end of all of this where we finally get everyone together again? Because that's the big question right now, right? Everyone's wondering, like, will Rick and Daryl ever meet? Because, you know, according to some fans, it's like a no, it's never ever going to happen. So it's just, yeah, you know, it's one of those things where I can't wait to see where this is going to go. This is a topic that we will be discussing for many, many years to come, obviously. I mean, I guess until there's an actual confirmation at some point, Scott Gimple, AMC, anyone, where they talk about the overall universe. And I think right now they're not discussing it that much because it's kind of premature to discuss it, right? And that's the thing too, like, I wish Gimple could have been there at Comic-Con, because I think he would have actually talked about it a little bit. He would have been asked about it, and, you know, maybe he would give a very Gimple answer and just say really nothing, but there would be like some slight hints here and there, right? So like, that's why to me overall, I'm like, I really do think the focus right now is going to be on, let's set up the spinoffs here. Let's set up these first seasons of these shows, establish these new worlds, and then once we get into season 2 and discuss some of the bigger world stuff, then we can start to talk about some more of that, right? Because I remember Gimple saying that before too. He was like we want to get these shows up off the ground, and then we'll kind of see from there for like the next seasons. And I'm paraphrasing there, obviously, but it was something like that. And yeah, I'm just excited. But definitely post our thoughts down below. Do you think the CRM needs to be discussed, or it needs to be a part of the plot in future seasons of Daryl Dixon and Dead City? Post our thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.